Hello, I'm Reverend Kate from the Center for Spiritual Living in Carlsbad, California, and today's message is me, us, and them. Now, for some reason, when I thought about this topic, I kept picturing a ruler, maybe because we all want to measure up. Measuring up is good. Measuring things is helpful. Dividing things into smaller pieces and then recombining them is how we turn raw materials into useful items. You can measure a board and cut it and then nail the pieces together and end up with a birdhouse or a real house. You can measure out your flour and water into a bowl with some salt and yeast and make a bread dough. You could think of even humanity as being divided up. There's my me, and there's you or your me, and then there's other people too. Isn't it funny that all of them think of themselves as being their own me? We all think of ourselves, naturally enough, as our very own self, our very own I am. Now, in our New Thought teaching, we believe in the concept that each of us is actually made of the substance of spirit itself. And so we share that in the very same way that all snowflakes are made of water, but they're all unique. Well, actually, I think you'd have to say that we humans are far more different from each other than even snowflakes are. But I'm just trying to think of an example of how it is we can be individuals, but also united in our essence, although we're not identical. So let's go back to the idea of being divided up and dividing things up. Now, have you ever heard the saying, divide and conquer? It can be very useful, right? I divide my days into hours and minutes, and that helps me conquer time. I divide my to-do list into do this at home, do this when I am out and about, do it today, do it eventually. And dividing things up like this helps me conquer my tasks. Or if I'm working with other people on a project, maybe building a house or getting ready for a party or creating a business plan, we can divide up the tasks between us and the work gets done more quickly and more easily without a lot of wasted effort. It's teamwork. Divide and conquer. Dividing up problems or big jobs into smaller bits is actually a great way to get through them more simply, or we can do them sequentially, one step at a time, inch by inch. That's how computers do their tasks so lightning fast. Well, we humans can get together in teams, and then it's amazing what can happen, right? It's good. Divide and conquer is a good idea. But like a lot of basically good ideas, it can also be used in ways that are not so good. Because divide and conquer has an altogether different meaning also. To divide people, to pit people against each other, so that it is easier to conquer the people themselves. Now, I think the strategy is as old as war itself, or maybe just any human relationships. But we do know that the Roman ruler, Julius Caesar, wrote about consciously using this strategy when he wrote his own history books about his own historic wars against the Gauls. And he used the actual term divide et impera, divide and rule. And Machiavelli, who famously wrote about the art of manipulating other people to promote yourself, advised that the way to make an opponent, like an opposing military captain, weaker was to make him become suspicious of people that he had thought he could trust. And this was the way he suggested dividing, weakening, and essentially, eventually conquering his opponents. If you study history, you're going to find many instances where this strategy has been used. However, this is not a history lesson. I just want to make you aware of how something, an idea that could be 100% good and useful, has also been used to divide people and to turn them against each other. Now, I think it's obvious that subjugating or conquering other people is never a good goal, just like being conquered or being subjugated would never actually be a personal goal. Our teaching, the science of mind, is a path of peace. But it's not a path of allowing ourselves to be enslaved spiritually, physically, or mentally. In fact, we believe that no matter what the outward circumstances of a person may be, each person is already free. Already free. Intrinsically free, because we are free to discover the truth with a capital T, through thinking itself. In his book, The Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes wrote that our conscious mind is that part of us which is in unity with the Supreme Spirit and which enables us to be individualized, separate, without becoming separate from Spirit. He says that the eternal has placed itself at the center of each person's being so that we may function individually, and that the discovery of this, the greatest truth about mankind, is the greatest discovery of the ages. And this is that the consciousness of man and woman is an extension of the consciousness of God. This is what Jesus was talking about also when he said, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." Real freedom means that people are created in the image of perfection and let alone, said Holmes. Let alone and allowed to make the discovery about the nature of who they are for themselves. And that as we realize our oneness with divine intelligence or creative mind, we are released from the bondage of false thinking. Freedom means liberty, but not license, he said. We're free to think what we want. Actually, we even do have free will to do and say what we want also, although we should make wise decisions to make sure we are acting in accordance with our highest good. And our highest good will always bring benefit to others also. So that brings me back to Machiavelli and Caesar and anyone who seeks to turn people against each other. You know, Dr. Seuss wrote one of his fabulous children's books that was called The Butter Battle Book. And in it, he told the story of the Yooks going against the Zooks. And the Yooks said, "We Yooks, as you know, when we breakfast or sup, spread our bread with the butter side up. That's the right honest way." Grandpa gritted his teeth. "So you can't trust a Zook who spreads his bread underneath. He has kinks in his soul. That's why, as a youth, I made watching my goal. Watching Zooks for the Zook Watch Border Patrol." Yes, we are separate. And it is easy to divide people up in all kinds of ways. By nationality, by religion, by physical characteristics, size, eye color, skin tone, age, education level, wealth, even their hobbies, their favorite sports teams, whether they're getting vaccinated or not, who they vote for, their job description, their favorite type of music, whether they were ever in jail, whether they taught school, whether they served in the military. Now, of course, it can be helpful to know who's who sometimes. If you have a business selling rain boots, you will certainly want to advertise to people who live in rainy places. That's fine. That's perfect. But on the other hand, the idea of misusing the strategy of divide and conquer, besides not being nice or fair, the overlooked truth is that everything we think, we say, and we do affects our own life more than that of anyone else, to a certain degree. So there's no reason today to sit and pass judgment on others when it is our own thoughts and actions that create our own situations, our own challenges and triumphs. Our thoughts create the tendencies in our lives. But of course, we're not alone. You know, there is your very own me, myself, and I. You, yourself, you, with which you think and with which you navigate through the world. And then there is us, we, what you might call your affinity group. It might be your family, friends, co-workers, neighbors, whoever it is that you interact with the most or feel close to, You might be in one or more groups of people that you belong to, that you will work with, and that to more or less degree you will share your life with in different ways. Each of us has our own us group. Hopefully we feel comfortable with them. But then, what about them? We have us and we have them. The others. The unknown people. Maybe they're far away, or maybe they're very different from us. Maybe we think they might be scary or dangerous. It's actually more of an idea about people than a reality about them. And I know in my life, over and over, I have found that when I meet or greet someone with an attitude of friendliness, they're almost always friendly back. Not always, but almost always. Remember, I said earlier that our thoughts create the tendencies in our lives. Well, we're not the only ones having thoughts. If you think of our lives as being kind of like creating a painting, the art of living, well, it often doesn't feel like you're working on your own personal masterpiece. A lot of the time, most of the time, it feels more like there's some kind of big community mural being painted with lots of people, somewhat out of control, many paint brushes going all at once, and it can be kind of wild. But still, you are responsible for your part, right? And your part can include trusting other people. Each of us is the thinker, the doer, the artist, creating our lives at the same time as everyone else. So we run around turning over each other's buckets of paint, or telling them how bad their ideas are? Or shall we try to work in harmony and trust with each other? This is how we allow and give each other the peace that we each need in order to complete our part of the mural, our part of this beautiful tapestry of life. The opposite of dividing and conquering through manipulation could be the motto that America adopted back in 1776, E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. Its meaning, the meaning of this motto, is actually pretty close to what we teach. And the idea has been passed down to us through the millennia in many different forms, including from an early Greek philosopher, Heraclitus, who said that the one is made up of many things, and all things issue from the one. We teach oneness. We are essentially connected. Now, when I try to imagine how it could be that we humans could all have the same spiritual origin, all be made of that very same stuff, the very substance of spirit itself, and we know that there's only spirit and nothing else. Everything that we are experiencing is made of spirit. I'm not saying it's an illusion. I'm just saying it is a manifestation of spirit. When I try to imagine how this could be so, and how there could be so much variety, infinite variety, I think it can be helpful to imagine a ray of light passing through a crystal or even through a rain cloud, and how that perfect light can then separate into a whole rainbow of colors. Each color being perfect and beautiful in its own right, each color being complete in its own right, and yet each color is not all colors. Yet, together, the colors are all colors. Many lights from one light encompassing all, beyond all, unlimited. So, at the beginning of my talk, I was talking about rulers, measuring, seeing if we could measure up. When it comes to your light, following your light, there is one way to measure, one rule to follow. Maybe you know what it is. Right, the golden rule. The golden rule. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus summed it all up with a single phrase: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You can find versions of this in many, many cultures, in many, many religions all over the world. Essentially, the same thing. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. When we follow this rule, all ideas, all false ideas of separation fall away from us, and we see the truth that each of us is Spirit's perfect child, God's perfect child. We are all brothers and sisters, one humanity, sharing this earth. And as we begin to live by this rule as much as possible, the inner essence of our being is set free. Our spirit, our soul, our intelligence is set free. We are set free to shine and spread the light of loving kindness into the world. So be patient with yourself. Forgive yourself. And let your light shine into the world. You are the beautiful light of life. You are perfect, whole, and complete right now. There is good for you. You ought to have it. We can share it when we treat each other with kindness, consideration, and respect. So, look in the mirror. Begin with yourself. You are wonderful. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy, explore, and accept. If you would like to request prayer treatment, affirmative prayer treatment, please feel free to send us an email. If you'd like to find out more about our center or our teaching, you can go to our website, www.cslcarlsbad.org. So, all blessings to you. Thank you.